Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this. Before I actually get into the full video, I just wanted to come on here and make a quick note. So this video was filmed several months ago, which explains one thing, why my hair is still so long. And I also wanted to point out that there are a few things that have changed since I filmed this video. One of those being that I started therapy, but I hesitated to share this video or even bother editing it for a while because I really just wanted it to be sort of like a venting video, but it seems like you guys really like these get ready with me chatty videos, and a lot of you seem to really relate to a lot of things I talk about. And one of the things that I want to use my channel for in the future, as much as I feel comfortable, is to talk about mental health, whether that's my mental health or just mental health and mental illnesses in general. And so part of that, I think, is just being able to talk about them and the things that I feel and the things that I think, so that maybe some people can relate to them and not feel so alone, and to also help me not feel so embarrassed or just afraid to talk about how I'm feeling. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys get into the video, and if you guys enjoy it and relate to stuff within the video, please like, subscribe, comment below, and yeah, enjoy. Past Marlow will be taking over now. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today, I think you're a little bit low. Maybe look up a little bit. Today I'm going to be filming another get ready with me chatty type video, and this is just going to be another one of those sort of stream of consciousness venti kind of videos, I guess. Yeah, I'm just gonna start with my makeup and just chat. So as of today, what is today? November 7th, when I'm filming this, I have no idea when I'm actually going to upload it. Maybe never if I don't like the way it turns out. Story of my life. I didn't film, edit, or upload a video in the previous week, as in the week I'm talking about, you know what I mean. And the reason for that, I guess, to put it bluntly, is a mix of burnout and just sort of feeling really bad about myself. So I kind of got into this very negative headspace lately where I just kind of feel sort of fed up with a lot of things, mostly things surrounding anything that involves work. I feel like I had a much more eloquent way to talk about this when I was like lying awake at like 1 in the morning, not really sure how to fall back asleep. And that sort of tells me that I need to just talk and not really worry so much about whether or not I upload this or what people will think, because I just kind of need to vent, and I like doing that in these videos. So the term burnout has been going around the internet and whatever for quite some time, even though the concept itself is not new. Anyone who works a lot and has a lot of responsibilities, odds are they get very, very burnt out, but I guess considering, I don't even know if I'm in the frame, but considering the type of world we live in now with technology and I guess just the need to constantly be so like busy and doing a million things, burnout seems to be much more rampant. And on top of that, I've just been feeling, how do I say this? A little bit out of control with my depression and anxiety. So I haven't talked a whole lot about mental health, my mental health, or I guess mental health in general on this channel. I've mentioned it a couple times, I think, that I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, I think when I was like in high school, like 14 officially maybe, but I've had these issues for pretty much my entire life. I know I've been a very anxious person my entire life, even when I was a young kid, and I can think of a few reasons for that, but I wasn't really officially diagnosed with anything until I was a teenager. The thing with depression and anxiety, in most cases, well, I don't know if I should say most, but in my case, I've realized that it's something that's probably going to be a struggle my entire life. And for some people, they can kind of deal with something and it's more, what's the word, short-lived, I guess. It doesn't become like a chronic, lifelong illness or something they have to struggle with, like they can overcome it. But for a lot of people, we're just stuck being mentally ill our entire lives. And I know that's very disheartening for a lot of people, and it kind of is for me, because there's plenty of days where I'm like, why can't I just not be like this? But this weird thing happened it was probably maybe a year or two ago. It was a while back. I had this sort of like realization or something in regards to my depression, and it was just the sense that because I've had it so long, I've grown fairly accustomed to the cycles, I guess you could call it. So I know for a lot of people with depression, it tends to ebb and flow. And a really like super depressed period can last a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months. It really all depends on the person and the situation and that kind of stuff. And once I realized that I sort of understood the cycle and the fact that if I'm having a really, really low time or I'm very highly depressed, I forget how I how I say this in my head. But I've learned that if I keep doing certain things and just kind of deal with it and roll with the punches and deal with the waves as they come, they will eventually go away. It was weirdly a relief to realize that this is sort of how it's always gonna be. And I know that doesn't sound very reassuring when I say it out loud like that, or to a lot of people, I'm sure. But I realized that this is sort of predictable most of the time. It's not always that case where it's going to be just like, oh, I'm going to be depressed for a little while and then it'll go along its way and I'll be happy. Because I don't really feel happy very often. I don't quite really remember what actual happiness feels like. Maybe that's very depressing to hear, but that's just kind of how I say it. But it was almost a relief, like I was saying, to realize that I kind of get this. I sort of understand it, and I know that, you know, I will feel bad for however long I feel bad, and then I'll feel better, even if I'm not, even if I'm not dancing on rainbows happy, I will feel better than I feel now. And after I realized that, it didn't cure me of depression, that's for damn sure, but it's become much more manageable, or at least I understand it better, and I don't really, like, freak out as much when I know that I'm going to be depressed for a while. It's not quite as devastating, I guess, as it used to be. But my real problem lately has been anxiety. So, like I said, I've always been a very anxious, nervous sort of person, and that's something else that comes and goes, but I've never really figured out a way to not be anxious and stressed out. I don't know, it's like sometimes I can deal with it in the short term, kind of. Like if I'm having an actual anxiety or panic attack, that, I mean, you just kind of have to wait it out. That's the only thing I've really figured out. But when it comes to sort of long-standing chronic anxiety and stress, I've not figured out a way to actually deal with that or overcome that. Lately, my stress and anxiety have been really, really bad and have been taking a very, what's the word I'm thinking of? Have been taking a significant toll on my life, my lifestyle, my well-being, and my health. That really sucks when you don't know how to deal with this thing and you've never known how to deal with this thing, and it's just like worse than it's been in a long time. And I guess I'll go out on a limb and share something that really made me realize that this anxiety and stress is way out of control and something that I definitely need to like really, really try to get a handle on. This story's a little embarrassing, I guess, for me, but it makes sense in the after. It makes sense to me now, but at the time I was kind of embarrassed, and I feel like other people might not understand why this was so upsetting. So, as you guys may know, if you've been following me for a while, I work from home. I have a full-time job for a company, and I just work out of this office in my house. And then on top of that, I'm a writer, and obviously that's something else I do from home, but those two jobs both require the internet. So I need to have well-functioning internet all the time, or at least all the time when I'm on the clock. And one day, I think it was a couple weeks ago now, the internet went out suddenly at like, I mean, I don't know when it stopped working, but I realized it around 4 something in the morning, probably around the time that we usually wake up. And normally when it comes to internet stuff, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about technology aside from like how to use it, but when it comes to troubleshooting technology, I don't know. I'm not that person to call on. But generally, when I'm having an issue with the internet, I check to see if it's working on other devices, and if it is, then it's probably my phone, because that's usually how I access the internet most often, aside from my work computer. So I basically confirmed that the internet wasn't working on any device. And I spent several hours trying to troubleshoot what the problem was. And usually when there's internet problems, I can just reset the router and it usually fixes it. But I did that a couple times and it didn't work. And it kept not working and not working and not working for hours. When it first started acting up, or when I realized that it wasn't going to be easily fixed, I started to get very worried and stressed out because my livelihood relies on the internet, for better or for worse. I have a love-hate relationship with technology. And I started to really get more and more stressed as the hours went on. And mind you, I think it took like 3 or 4 hours for me to finally get it sorted out, or for it to sort itself out. When I ran a troubleshooter on my computer, on my laptop, it was telling me that the DNS server might be unavailable. So I used the data on my phone to get online and try to figure out how to fix that. And so I'm working on this, and nothing is working. Nothing is fixing it. And I'm just like getting more and more stressed out and more panicky the longer that my internet's not working. It got to the point where I was so stressed out that I started catastrophizing. And actually, Katie Morton, who's a therapist, or a psychologist, therapist, something like that, on YouTube, she recently posted a video about catastrophizing, so I'll link that below so you can get like a much more professional description of what that is. But in short, it's basically, I believe it's considered a cognitive cognitive distortion, where you start thinking about every worst possible scenario, even if the thing that's happening isn't necessarily like earth-shatteringly bad, if that makes sense. So in this case, for my example, the internet's not working. Started as like a simple, the internet's not working. This is inconvenient. And then as it's progressed and as it continued to not work, it became less of an inconvenience and more of a, okay, this thing that I need in order to do my job isn't working, therefore I can't do my job. And then if I can't do my job, then I'm going to get trouble at work. And if I get in trouble at work too much or for too long, then they're going to fire me. And if they fire me, then I can't pay my bills. I don't have any money coming in, and that's really bad. Because if you can't pay your bills, then you get screwed by so many different companies. And then I kept thinking, well, if I get fired from this job, then maybe I won't be able to find another job that lets me work remotely, which works really well for me and for my dog. So if I can't work remotely, I'm going to have to go into some office or some new workplace, and my poor dog is going to be left alone at home for hours and hours on end. And then maybe this new job I find I'll hate, or it'll have a really long commute, and then I'll be stuck in the rush hour traffic again, which I absolutely can't stand because it causes even more stress and anxiety for me. And then maybe I'll find a job that doesn't pay as much, and then I'll be constantly struggling to pay my bills and this and that. And you see where this is going. What started as a minor inconvenience very quickly spiraled into like a near life or death situation where like my entire lifestyle and everything was going to be upheaved, and it was going to just be bad news all around. Like I said, this was over the course of hours, where it was a minor inconvenience to the point where, and I'm really embarrassed to say this, but I'll just fucking say it, I was literally sitting at this desk sobbing uncontrollably because I was so stressed out and panicked, and I felt so helpless because I didn't know how to fix this stupid internet issue. And I was worrying about all of these big picture things that might not necessarily happen. I figured I would have to call our internet company, and try to get someone to come out and fix it, and then figured that would be a huge runaround, and I would start making all these assumptions about our internet company, and what if they can't ever fix it, and what if we never have internet again, and this and that. And yeah, it got real dramatic real fast, and I was here by myself, by the way, just freaking out. After like 3 or 4 hours of trying to sort the thing out, it starts working again. the router, the DNS issue, whatever, fixed itself. Or maybe one of the things that I did made it work. I have no idea. It just, my devices started connecting to the internet again and things were okay. But I didn't feel okay after that. It wasn't like it sorted itself out, got fixed, and I calmed down and was like, wow, you were being so silly. Haha, let's laugh about this. No, I still felt terrible. I still felt very, insecure about my lifestyle and all kinds of things for several days, maybe even a week or so after. And the one thing that I think really stuck with me was that I reacted so strongly to something that maybe someone else would just consider a minor inconvenience that isn't that big a deal. And that's when I realized, yeah, this whole stress and anxiety thing is way out of your hands because you are sobbing like a fucking bitch because your internet won't work and you're afraid that you're going to lose your job and just terrible things are going to happen. I don't know. It made sense in my head, sort of, why I was reacting that way, but it, definitely spiraled out of control. And, I don't know, I just felt like I needed to vent that to someone, to myself, to a camera, sitting here alone in a room. Yeah, go figure. But the other thing that, I realized in not having internet access was that I rely a lot on the internet for contact with the outside world. I don't really know how else to say it because I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but my husband and I moved to Utah where we don't have any family or friends. We just have some neighborhood acquaintances, and he has some work buddies that he chats with and stuff like that. But me, I don't have any friends here at all. And I realized that I have sort of online friends, and that's sort of on a different caliber. And I don't want to sound like I don't value the relationships that I build online, because you can make a lot of great relationships online. Me and David even met online. So I definitely hold some value in online friendships, online relationships, but it's not the same as having someone in person that you feel like you know well and you've actually done things with. And it's not the same as, having childhood friends that you have a lot of history with, or the same as having close family. It's just not the same. And so that is a serious problem, I think, not having in-person relationships. And that's a problem that is faced by a lot of people nowadays, especially my age, the 20 to 30 some odd range is the folks that generally feel the most lonely. And I was reading this article, don't remember where it was, don't remember when I saw it, so I don't think I'd be able to find it to share it. But it was very interesting that it seems like throughout time, you tend to have more relationships when you're very young and in school. And then when you're in your 20s and 30s, the feeling of loneliness increases for most people, and you don't have as many strong relationships because around that age, most people are trying to build careers and start families and stuff like that. And then I believe it was actually when you're older, you start to get more friends. And I can't remember if it's 40s, 50s, something like that, where you're more established in your professional and home life and you actually have time for friends again. And then I think it decreases again when you're elderly. Like I said, those, I guess, are things that have been consistent across decades, across time. But nowadays, it's even higher. It's a higher percentage of people in my age group saying that they have no friends at all or very few close friends. So this loneliness is becoming a strange epidemic. And I never really thought I would be in this position where I spend pretty much all of my time in my house and I don't have close in-person relationships with friends or family. And so it's very different to read these studies on loneliness and how it really, really affects you. I mean, all people, not just a certain age group or anything, but it's a completely different thing to actually be feeling it myself and to realize, I think loneliness is like a really huge reason why I feel so bad emotionally and even physically. And I would have to do more research, or you guys could do research on your own, about the effects of loneliness. But yeah, I mean, there seems to be a lot of research done on it already, and people seem to agree that having close relationships, even if it's just a relatively small amount of people, is very good for your health, and having no real close relationships is bad for your health and well-being no matter what your age is, whether you're a little kid or an elderly folk. Just went into a coughing fit for no reason. I guess that's what happens when I haven't filmed a video in a while. I haven't talked in a while. No! Stop tearing up! You're doing your makeup! No tears allowed! I promise these are coughing tears, not sad tears. Yeah, if it weren't for my dog, I would be a much more lonely person than I already am. I don't know, like I really just wanted to film a video sort of about, I guess, a mental health update and just kind of vent, because I needed to vent. I don't know. I never wanted to be someone who consistently talks about their mental health or mental health in general online, but I've always thought it would be nice someday to be at a point in my life where I don't mind talking about it so that I could advocate for mental health awareness and make other people feel a little less alone if they have similar feelings. So if you are a very lonely person and you feel like you're weak or pathetic or anything for feeling that way, don't, because odds are everyone else around you feels just as lonely as you do, especially if they're around the same age as you, like 20s, 30s kind of age. If you can relate to that, feelings of overwhelming stress, loneliness, whatever, like this video and comment below and let me know your thoughts on the whole thing. Fortunately, I don't really have any guaranteed advice for how to make friends as an adult. I've been trying to use Bumble BFF. Hasn't been going great. I've definitely had a lot of online conversations with people and been ghosted by a lot of people. And I met one person in person, face to face for coffee, and it was okay. It was very awkward, I think because we have very similar personalities. Very similar awkward personalities. Damn it, I have no idea when my camera shut off. But yeah, like I was saying, if you at all are feeling overwhelmed, lonely, like you're not mentally at your best, there's no sense in being ashamed of it or feeling embarrassed to ask for help or anything like that. Find someone who's close to you that you feel like you can trust to talk about things with, or talk to a mental health professional. Find a counselor, a therapist, something. There's no shame in going to therapy. I've had a lot of counselors since I was a teenager, and it's something that I'm pursuing again now. I wanted to put a more positive spin on this, but I honestly can't remember the thing that I wanted to say to sound even a little bit more positive. I think about all these things when I'm trying to sleep, and I'm just like, okay, that would make a really good video potentially, and then I actually sit down to film the video and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing here. As far as the stress and stuff goes, a lot of that is things that are sort of out of my hands, unfortunately. At my workplace, I mean, to be very short and sweet without getting into too much boring detail, we've all had a lot more work, across the entire company. We've had more work put on us, so it just sort of created just more work and stress for everyone, and there's not a whole lot I can do about that except get shit done, I guess, which I'm usually pretty good at doing. It's that whole workaholic brain that that is a blessing and a curse sometimes. Maybe I'll tone down the videos if I'm feeling overwhelmed to, I don't know, maybe twice a month, every other week, once a month, whenever I just feel like I have the time and ambition to do it, because there's no sense in trying to do something that doesn't feel like it's having any sort of payoff for me, whether professionally or fun-wise. That's why I'm also trying more to just film videos that I actually give a shit about and not really talk as much about writing tips or publishing tips or anything like that. I'm just trying to go with the flow more often and not berate myself as much, because a lot of the stress and anxiety that I've been feeling is caused by myself. I don't know. I'm kind of my own overbearing coach, I guess. Constantly telling myself to do all these things as if they're all important, and they're really not. And I still struggle a lot to find things that I actually find enjoyable and relaxing, because I'm just so focused on work all the time. But yeah, I have so many other things that I could update, but I think I'm going to try and save some of them for their own sort of dedicated videos, and I think after I'm done here filming this, I'm going to restart the camera and film something that's a little more lighthearted. I want to talk about people watching video games, and it's not going to be a negative thing at all. I used to have a very negative opinion of that because I thought it was ridiculous, and then I started doing it, and now I realize that there are cool aspects to it. So I think that's what I'm going to talk about because that just sounds interesting and very relevant to me right now. I don't know if it's relevant to other people, if it'll get any views, but who cares? It just sounds like something that I want to talk about right now, so that's what I'm going to do. Thank you for watching. If you're still here listening to me vent, if you related to anything that I talked about, I know I feel like I just rambled a lot and jumped topics, but that's what my brain is like, so you're welcome. Like I said, if you're related to anything, have thoughts, comments, whatever, definitely leave them below in the comments. Yep, that's where comments go. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If you'd like to keep up with me on other social media platforms, I'll leave those links below in the description as well. And links to my self-published novels. So until next time, see ya!